Hi everyone. Last week, we learned about the Islamization in Malaysia and there were a few discussions regarding gender in Islam. This week, we'll explore the gender issues in Malaysia. We'll learn about the recent increase of women in education and workforce, changes in the notions of family and domestic partnerships, and femininity in the discourse of Islamization. This week, our series of interviews consists of activist Marina Mahathir and Suri Kempe, who is the program manager of a Malaysian grassroots organization, Sisters in Islam. They will be sharing their insights on various gender issues here.
Well, SIS conducts a lot of workshops and trainings for all sorts of women, and not just limited to urban women, shall we say. And actually, I actually find middle class, well-off women more problematic than rural women, because and taking this example from my days working in HIV. If I go and talk to women in like rural areas about women and AIDS, and talking about how women get infected, and not just sort of medical terms, but the fact that they get infected often from their own husbands, rural women, semi-rural women, they get it instantly. They understand it. And they'll say to me, "So Marina, what else do we have to suffer from men?" Because they're used to being discriminated against. It happens all the time. You see that they work the land and yet they have no rights to it. So this type of discrimination, constant injustice, is something they are used to. So to me, they are natural feminists, I like to call them, because they get it instantly. Whereas urban women, middle class women, they live in great comfort, and they always think that as long as they are comfortable, they have their nice home, nice car, and all that, is okay. They will put up with this type of discriminations. So I was telling her, well, you all feel comfortable and all that, but behind the bedroom door, are you just as comfortable? Are you, angry about something? They find it hard to admit to that because, they don't want to give up all this comfort. Whereas for rural women, working class women lower income, they're used to discomfort every day. They don't have that much else to lose. And we find that when we go and talk about like legal issues for women in wherever workshops, the women are really interested because all of them have experienced some sort of issue, like with the courts or something. They've all experienced it. So they're very interested in getting justice in the courts and all that. So I don't know whether yes, we are middle class, educated, elite, talking about it. But then I think all revolutions and all are led by people who are more educated. At least the seed of it, to get the ideas going. Then the actual work might be done by others. But this discrimination cuts across all classes, really, because the overarching or the most dominant class is the male. So it has to go back to education. I mean, that's the problem. Actually, it's all about education, because we all like to think that we've been educated in religion, but whatever have we been educated in, myself included, is that we've learned to read the Quran in Arabic, which is a language we don't understand. We might have some of it translated for us, but not all of it. So we don't understand the nuances of the Arabic language, and it's classical Arabic, by the way. It's not even modern day Arabic. Yeah. So we learned that we can read the entire Quran, and some people even memorize the entire Quran, but they don't understand what it's saying. That's one. The other thing, we are educated in rituals. How to pray, how to fast, how to go on the Hajj. And nowadays there are like even more and more rules. Like 10 million ways you can do it wrong, rather than the few ways that you can do it right. You know, when I was little, what I was always told is that Islam is a very easy religion, because the things that you're not supposed to do are very big things, and therefore it's very easy to know when you've transgressed, right? And yet there are many little things that you can do that are good, that are considered good, you know. But nowadays there are like 10 million things that you can do that is wrong, and very few things that you can do that is good. So it's complete opposite. So it's a matter of the education, you know, it's a bit sad because people get really obsessed with the minutiae, you know, like whether you sit properly when you pray, or you know, you just get completely obsessed, which is, you know, me personally, I don't think that God is that obsessed. He's not OCD about whether you've done everything perfectly. It's your intention. We always say everything is about niyat. It's all your intention, whether, you know, you have good intention or not. And one of the things that I love most about my religion is this saying that if you think, you know, we have this thing about pahala and dosa, you know, merit and sin. When you do good things, you get merit, and when you do bad things, it's a sin, right? And everything is like in an accounts book, which will be totaled up on Judgment Day, and you see which way it goes, right? And what I like most about it is that if you even think of doing something good, you already get points. Whereas if you think of doing something bad, then the recording angels that are supposed to be by your side wait until you actually do it. So you can get really angry with someone and you think, I want to kill that person, but you don't get any demerits for it until you actually do it, which is highly unlikely most times. But if you think of something good to do, you instantly get merit, and I think that's great. That's, you know, that's so, you know, niyat is everything. What your real niyat is. But everyone gets so worked up about what type, you know, even if you cover your head, what type of scarf you wear, whether one little strand is showing or not. I mean, I think it's a bit insulting to God to think that He's so, you know, compulsive, obsessive compulsive about these little things, when really you should be spending your time thinking about how you can, you know, do the things that God wants you to do as listed in the Quran. I think one, definitely education, you know, a very progressive interpretation of Islam, I think, is important, and it goes side by side with education about human rights, democracy, etc., you know, because all of these things go together, and they are not at all incompatible. You know, I hate this idea that you have Islam on one side, human rights on the other side. It's ridiculous, because they should be the same thing, and to me, there is no Islamic version of human rights either. I mean, let's not forget the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. If you look at it carefully, there's nothing you can argue with it. And that the people who established it in the first place included Muslims, you know, very prominent Muslims. So I don't see what the problem is. I think the problem is people over-interpreting everything. Like, oh, if we have this, then in the future, you know, people might want to do this and do that. I really, you know, it's again, I think people just being OCD about details, you know. But education is very important. There are a lot of progressive scholars around the world. We can choose to follow them if we want, but instead we choose to follow the worst ones. It's a choice, you know, it's a choice. I think, again, to me, the beauty of Islam is that we do not have one central authority. We do not have priests. You know, we are allowed, each one of us is allowed to interpret it the way we want. Because we have to be educated about it. We can't simply make up. And the source is the Quran. And a little bit the hadith. And then you have to be very careful of which hadith you pick, because there are a lot of fake ones as well. But as long as they don't contradict the Quran, then you're fine. You know, so the main thing is to follow the Quran. We don't need interpreters. We don't need any middlemen. You have a direct line to God, you know. That's the beauty and the democracy of Islam. Right? It is totally democratic in that way, that you don't need other people to interpret for you. So I think that's really, you know, what we need. Whether it's going to happen is really, it's a matter of leadership, as always. It is always a matter of leadership. If we have leadership that is wishy-washy about religion, or thinks that religion is a great tool for politics, which is what we see now, then you're going to get a situation that we have now, you know, where it's totally mixed up and it's very dangerous. Because obviously, you know, in a multicultural, multi-ethnic society where not everybody has the same religion, using one is going to be discriminatory by itself, by nature. It has to be discriminatory. That's one. The other thing is really, I mean, we are incredibly bureaucratic. You know, I have a cousin who, a friend who married, who's Muslim from Malaysia, who married an American, and they came back here to get married. And the American guy said something to me which was very, very, really made me think a lot. He said, you know, you're so bureaucratic here. You know, I can only be a Muslim if after I've signed some forms and things. I have to fill in all these forms. I have to go to this office, and then only I become a Muslim. So the day before I sign the form, I'm not a Muslim. The day after I sign the form, I'm a Muslim. But in America, I just have to declare. I just have to recite, there is no God but God, and my prophet is the prophet is the messenger of God, and I'm a Muslim. That's it. You know, because that's about faith. Whereas here we don't care about faith. We care about bureaucracy, whether people have filled in the right forms or not. And there are endless ridiculous stories. I had a friend who converted, and first he was told he didn't have to change his name. And then someone said, no, you have to have a Muslim name. So he chose Adam. And when he went, they said, okay, what's your Muslim name? He said, Adam. He said, oh, you can't have Adam. That's not a Muslim name. And he said, no, it's not Adam, it's Adam. Ah, Adam, okay, fine. I mean, that's the sort of stupid stories that you have. You know, this obsessive compulsive disorder that a lot of these people have about details. Whereas, you know, gosh, you know, what's in the name? You know, it's about faith. It's so, in Malaysia, unfortunately, to me, it's completely faithless society in many ways, because it's not about faith at all. It's not about faith and belief and ethics at all. It's about bureaucracy, and that's what we have to get rid of. You can only get rid of that by taking the state out of religion. Unfortunately, I think if you try and do that now, you put a lot of people out of work. A lot, because we have a huge Islamic bureaucracy. All these people will be out of work, and there's a huge vote bank that they're afraid to lose, right? So it's not going to happen anytime soon. But really, you know, we should be dismantling rather than adding on. I mean, JAKIM gets a budget of 700 million. That's more than a lot of other departments that you have to wonder what it's for, you know. So, and they have to make work for themselves, right? Hence you get all these ridiculous fatwas and things like that. So yeah, all this, really, it's bureaucracy and nothing else, and politics.
well, that's fine if they want to do, if they, you know, that's fine for them to say that. They can look at it, they can perceive it. I mean, just because you label it a chore doesn't mean you don't do a lot of things out of love, you know what I mean? But at the bottom line is that you spend more time, you know? I mean, like I said, that's why I cited the study, is because at the end of the day, yes, you'll do a lot of things out of love, but women also spend more time physically doing these things. So, and what that does, it gives them less time to relax, to rest, to find, you know, a healthy balance that creates healthy societies, healthy and resilient families, you know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, 4 hours versus 1 hour is still a difference in time. It cuts into your sleeping time. You might sleep less. You might you might be less likely to take care of your health. You might be less likely to find the peace that you need in order to maintain your sanity, for example, you know, just in the everyday hustle bustle of things, right? So at the end of the day, even though you do it out of love, the point is that you still physically do more work. I think the ideas of femininity and masculinity are typically based on gender stereotypes. So what is feminine, what is masculine, what is and the idea that one is feminine isn't only reflected in, say, for example, the physical. So the way one dresses, you know, you have to dress a certain way, you have to talk a certain way, your mannerisms are a certain way, you know, you're not gregarious and but it's also reflected in certain attributes, right? So and then you see this in cultural representations, right? Popular culture. So what is a good woman? So, and then there's a value judgment that's attached to this idea of femininity, you know? So what is feminine? You know, a feminine woman would be, and feminine is good for women. It's not good for men apparently, but feminine would be someone who's ayu and soft-spoken and mild-mannered and what does she dress like? You know, she's let's see. You know, she's modest in her appearance, and those are particular traits that you would associate with a femininity, and apparently the more, but interestingly, that then gets attached to a value judgment, right? Those things make you good, and the more of those traits you have, the more you dress and talk and walk like that, the better you are as a person, apparently. And I think that's a false equation we make, right? Because then you have someone saying, you know, then you have questions like, what is a good woman? Who is a good woman? And a good woman needs to do this, and a bad woman does this. So if you look at, for example, in a lot of dramas, TV dramas and whatnot, then you see like the good character, the good woman is always soft-spoken and gentle and polite, and she's preferably got long hair because that's what feminine women have, right? They have very long, beautiful ayu hair, and they look a particular, you know, this idea of like perempuan Melayu terakhir type character, right? And she's always patient and virtuous, and all these value judgments are attached to the idea of femininity. Whereas, what does the bad woman then look like? What does the bad character in a drama look like? You know, she's usually short hair, she's modern, she's dyed her hair in 10 million different colors, she wears short dresses, she speaks loudly, you know, she's opinionated, she interjects men, like how dare she. But that bad women are characterized that way. And that's not to say that women should stop, like women who are naturally like that should stop being, say, for example, soft-spoken or mild-mannered or anything. No, I mean, but it should be pointed out that women who don't fall into this category of what society labels as feminine and good, the women who fall outside of this label aren't bad. There's a whole, women come in, women are so diverse. They come in so many shapes and sizes, and they come in so many different ways, that just because you don't fall into this one little pigeonhole box doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you, it just emphasizes the diversity of how different many women are. It just highlights the diversity of women. You tend to see that sometimes in like Hollywood movies, but there's also a shift, I think. I mean, from the days when you watched James Bond, when Sean Connery was still James Bond, right? The way women are depicted is so completely different from the way women are depicted now. Women have more agency, women have more say, they're more kick-ass, and then you have movies like Kick-Ass where the lead is a young girl who's completely in control of what she does, and she has agency over her own body and what she says and everything. So the depictions of women are changing, but I think that also serves to, I guess, underscore the fact that it's easier then for people to say, oh, well, you see, that's a Western thing. See, women who are like that, it's all bad Western influence. So there are certain things that get lumped together, right? Independence, dressing a certain way, having control over your body and whatnot, that's all Western, right? And now even like the introduction of women's rights, or human rights, for example, is considered a Western value. It's a Western thing. And then it's easier for people to say, well, that's not us. We are like this. We Asians, we are like this, right? Yeah. But I think it's important to note that even in Malaysia, women come in so many different shapes and sizes and forms and characters and attitudes, that being like that I think we should suspend value judgment and really try and accept women for it. Stop prescribing or stop telling women, like, this is how you should behave, and a good woman does this and a good woman does that. And there's not only like, so what, what are you saying, right? If I have a loud voice, then I'm not a good woman. If I wear a skirt above the knees, I'm not a good woman. Women are so much more than that. And a lot of times and especially I think it starts first with the very physical attributes, right? With how you dress, how you're seen, how you're perceived. And it's only later on that people start then looking at your character, right? But first glance, first impressions, they're like, oh, she's dressed like this, which must mean something about her character. She must either be good or bad, right?